Hello everyone, welcome on board. Today's flight is from Detroit to Sturgis. As you can see, the weather is closing in on us, but it's a short flight and we'll cover starting up and taking off and hopefully landing the Twin Otter. So let's get on with it, shall we? Close the baggage doors, jump to the back and close the passenger door. Okay, let's remove the control lock. Test the controls. Everything there looks good. Okay, now we can turn our battery on and our DC master. Get some power into the plane. Next up on the overhead panel, we want to turn on external lights, and let's do the smoking and seatbelt lights as well. Okay, now these radios don't start up automatically, and we need to put our transponder on standby. So that's all on. Okay, now we need to sort out our flight plan. It's a fairly straightforward flight. We're just going to do a direct to, and our destination airport is Kilo India Romeo Sierra. Okay, change the range. You should now see the line going off over there. Now, very important, we push the CDI, change that to GPS. Now the autopilot will follow the pink line. Okay, flight plan is loaded. Doors and baggage is closed. Let us get our flight plan sorted. Or our people on board, I mean. Right. Now we need to get the weather. ATIS here is 133.670.
Detroit Metro Wayne CO Information Echo. 1400 Zulu weather. Wind light and variable, RVR 3600. Sky conditions 200 overcast, temperature 8, dew point 7. Area QNH 996. Arriving runways 21 left, 22 right, departing runways 22 left, 21 right. Advise on initial contact, you have Echo.
Okay, 24.41 is our altimeter setting. 29.
Detroit Metro Wayne CO Information Echo. 1400 Zulu weather. Wind light and variable, RVR 3600.
Okay. Departing
Sky conditions
2221.
overcast, temperature 8, dew point 7.
Okay, 22 left is on our right. Turn right and follow the taxiway down, we'll get to the end of it. Okay, flight plan set. Our cruising altitude is going to be 10,000 feet, so we will set that in our autopilot altimeter. Okay, right, fuel boost pumps on. Okay. Start the right engine first. And once the pressure there gets to 60, you can then introduce fuel on the right engine. Okay, that started quite nicely. And same procedure for the left engine. Once that gets to 60, we can introduce fuel. Okay, engines are settled, almost. Now back on the overhead panel, we can reset and turn on the generators, and turn on the air conditioner, and the bleed air to power the air conditioner. At this stage we can also put on the taxi light, and we're going to put on the pitot heat as well, just in case. Okay. Right, time to go to the runway. Okay, we're just about to join the runway, so landing lights on, and start squawking altitude. Switch our strobe light on as well, and put the air conditioner off. Okay, lined up on the runway. I've got my heading bug lined up with the runway as well. The altitude should still be set at 10,000, and our flight plan is loaded, and we're going to be going off to the right. After takeoff, this is actually quite a nice angle to demonstrate capturing the nav. Everything seems to be in good order, so let's go, as Steve would say. Okay, we're off. We're going to try and keep the airspeed around 95 knots. Push indicated airspeed and heading mode on the autopilot. Now we can switch the switch to on, and we'll capture the autopilot immediately. Okay, just needs to build itself back up to speed a bit. Which it is doing. The IAS button will try to keep the plane at a set speed, so if you cut the throttle, it will dive the plane to keep that speed, and if you increase the throttle, it will try and climb to bleed off speed until it matches the speed. Okay, it looks like it's stopping at just over 80, which is a bit slow, but that's okay. We'll pull a bit of throttle back, and then we'll reduce our props to 80 for the climb, and we can pull the torque back to about 45. Okay, we're just busy clearing the clouds now. But we're still flying runway heading, which you can't see because of the clouds. Right, now we need to push altitude alert, which will tell the autopilot to level us off at the set altitude. So we're just coming through 3,000 feet now. Okay, so we're heading a bit away from the line, so we'll just use our heading to turn us in that direction. Okay, now we're heading for the purple line. If we were a bit further away when we push nav, it would not arm it. You see, that would be red, I think. And then when it finds it, that'll turn green. But I think we're too close. It's just going to go straight to green. So let's hit nav. There we go. It's just gone green. And now the plane will fly us along that line. Okay, we're approaching our pre-programmed altitude. This little amber light has come on to show we're within 1,000 feet. Obviously you can see we're just coming through 9,500 now. This will just start to level the plane off, I guess 10,000, and we'll be in cruise mode. In the meantime, I have turned off the landing lights, the taxi lights, and turned the air conditioner back on again. Okay, you see the altitude alert has gone out, and you can't really see it all that well, but the IIS button is popped out and the altitude is now active. And we've captured altitude. Now we need to pull the props back to 72 for a nice economical cruise. And the manifold, well, the torque I suppose it is in this plane, it's 35, and we'll see how we get from there. The speed is starting to come up, going through 130 knots now, should settle at about 150 indicated. We do have quite a stiffish headwind, so our ground speed is quite a bit lower than indicated. 139 ground speed. It's not actually that different, I suppose. She's battling a bit to pick up speed, but that's okay. Flaps are on 0, didn't use them to take off. All the engine instruments are good, and now we settle in for the cruise. Okay, we have our weather. Wind's light and variable. Clear skies apparently. And QNH is 995. Let's have a look at what 995 is. It is 29.38. So let's set that first. 29.38 is all good. Okay, now we're going to need to know how we're going to approach the airport. So if we go to our airport and say show arrival procedures, you can go 18 or 36. Either one's good. Let's have a look at what 18's got. If we open this up, we can see what transitions we have. So that looks like a fairly good transition for us. Nupg. So let's add that, insert it into the flight plan. So we're doing the RNAV 18, transitioning Nupg. So over here, you say procedures, approach, RNAV 18, transition is Nupg, and we're going to activate it. If we now close the flight plan, we're now heading, should be, for Nupg, which will then take us straight into the airport. Okay, now if we go back to our map, we should start to see some altitudes. Okay, there isn't a restriction at Nupg, but at YRAP we need to be at 2,500 feet. So we're going to set our autopilot altitude for 2,500. Then we select indicated airspeed mode again, and now all we have to do is lower the throttle and the plane will start to dive to keep the speed. So we want about 500 feet per minute at the bottom there. That's a bit too much maybe. So add a bit more throttle just to bring that vertical speed up a bit. It does lag behind a bit, so just a bit of patience. I suppose we can turn off the weather now. Okay, as we are descending, I've turned on the landing lights and the taxi light. Now we just need to make sure that the autopilot is going to capture that altitude, so we use this button here, minimum descent altitude. Now when we reach 2,500, the plane will level itself off. If you don't push that, it'll just keep dropping until we hit the ground, which is never a good thing. Okay, we're less than 1,000 feet above our descent altitude now. As you can see, the amber light is on again. So when we get to 2,500, it is going to level off. Now, the one thing about using IAS mode is that once we level off, we're no longer going to have the descent to keep the speed up, so the speed is going to start dropping, which is actually really nice when you're on an approach. You want the speed down so you can extend the flaps. But you just have to be a bit careful because this plane can lose speed quite quickly. So it's just something to watch when we get there. 500 feet to go before we level off, so we shall see. We're also very quickly approaching our approach. As we start turning towards the airport, we can turn on approach mode, which will basically just tell the autopilot to ignore our set altitude and fly as it sees fit. Okay, 2,600 feet. And there we are, leveled off and starting to bleed speed already. Just coming down quite slowly, so maybe I could pull the throttles back a little bit more. Ideally you want to start your approach when you're lined up with the airport at about 100 knots and slowly bring in the flaps from there. Landing at about 75 knots. Okay, we probably won't need it here, but we can set minimums over there. So I'm setting that for 200 feet, just as a reminder that if we can't see the runway when we're 200 feet above it, we should be going around, or at least aborting. Okay, we're turning onto our approach now. And we're around 100 knots, which is pretty good. Just need to keep an eye on it. In this plane, you always have to keep an eye on the speed when you're in this kind of speed range. Just give it a touch more throttle there to stop it from slowing down any further. Okay, now I'm going to switch on approach mode. And you'll see the glide slope is now armed. When it picks up the glide slope, that will move to the right and go green. Just so we know what to expect, we're going to hold 2,500 feet until we get to Zugda, and from there we should start descending to the runway. As you can see, we're currently on that leg. Okay, we're on 90 knots. A little slower than I'd like, but that's okay. Now this Twin Otter has variable flaps, so you don't just click the flap button and it goes to the next notch. You have to hold it in, and you'll see what the flaps are set to on this gauge over here. Generally speaking, when we begin our turn onto the runway, we're going to put in about 10 degrees, settle the speed at around 90-ish, which we're already at. Just give it a little bit more throttle to keep that up, and then we go to 20 degrees, and when we start descending we'll go out to 30 degrees. You shouldn't really ever need to use 40 degrees flaps in this plane unless you want to do a short field landing, but even then you've got reverses, so and the glide slope is captured. Speed's dropping a bit during the turn. Hopefully that'll come back a little bit for us. I'm going to add in 10 degrees of flaps and then balance the speed out a bit. Quite a bit more throttle here. Don't want to react too quickly, because it does take a while for these turbines to spool up. Okay, a little over 80 knots, so I'm going to go for 20 degrees flaps. See, it's just balancing the plane out a bit. If it's too slow without flaps, it pitches up to maintain the altitude. Okay, we're doing 85 knots. Okay, if you have a look at the horizontal situation indicator over here, you'll see we've now glide slope indicators live. As we come in underneath the glide slopes, these will move down, and when they get there it'll start to descend. See, the plane has already climbed us up to about 3,000 feet since we turned on approach mode, so that's where it felt we needed to be. Okay, these indicators are coming down, and the plane is going to start dropping quite soon. At that point we'll go full flaps, and then we'll adjust the throttle for just under 80 knots. That's already started as descending, so I'm just going to pull the throttle back a bit, and let's go 30 on the flaps. Now we should be set flaps wise. Speed's coming down. Just above 80. Pull the throttle back a little more. A lovely weather change on approach. Mind, the autopilot will get us back on track, and we're now just under 80 knots. Now we can watch the radar altimeter down here, and we're still 1900 feet above the ground. And around 500 or 400 feet above the ground level we'll turn off the autopilot. Okay, manual control. So now we just gently play with the throttle to make sure we get down at the right place. Just a little bit of throttle off, maybe too much. So I'll put some more back on, see if we can pitch up a little bit, which we've done. A little bit more throttle. She's sinking a bit. Never mind. We'll just keep the power on to get us over the trees. She's a sturdy old bird, this. You can come down a bit hard if we need to. Yeah, it says we're high, but any lower we might brush those trees there. Okay, we're quite slow, so let's give it a little bit of throttle and over the threshold and cut the throttle. And cut it all the way, just enough so that we shouldn't climb any flare. And we're down. Now this is quite a long runway, so we don't need it, but we could use reversers.